Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today's special topic, it's on smart security. And what does that mean, smart security for cities? We're talking about smart cities the whole semester, and smart security is something that is very important. We will have a lecture at the beginning, and then at about in half an hour, a discussion with two special guests on their experiences with security in their country. And for that, the recording will be turned off, of course, and because security is always something serious. One thing that is interesting for architects and designers and civil engineers is this cyber civil infrastructure and this new development of the combination between the cyber world and the physical world. But let's look first into the past. Last time we had the smart livability as a decisive factor for urban resilience, because it shows, and also from the discussions with your previous colleagues, that livability is a very crucial factor for the resilience of a city. That means a city, if it's not really livable, people tend more to give it up if something terrible happens. But if it has a high livability, they come back and make it better even than before. We just had this morning visit of a president and a vice president of a university in Tehran, and they were most fascinated by this topic of livability in cities and by this resilience aspect of cities. Because for their country, with earthquakes, droughts, and all kinds of other threats, this is an important issue. And before was complexity science, and before that, smart urban governance. Especially urban governance and complexity science are related to today's topic, this security. Here's the content. First, we want to have a look at something that's happening right now in real time. After this, we go to some definitions, then examples, discussion of use cases, and conclusions. Now we should turn on this one. Any one of you has seen this site? Have you? No? So let's watch it for a while and then tell me what you think what that is. Actually, it's self-explanatory. It's even described at the bottom. Just watch it carefully. You get the idea? So this is a software, or it's a website, NORS it's called, and they have more than 5 or 6 million sensors distributed all around the world, and they're trying to measure all the attacks, the internet attacks, the cyber attacks that are happening in real time. And you can see at the bottom the attack origins there. You see the United States with 530 at the top, and China with 360 coming after this, and then it's Ukraine and the Netherlands and South Korea and Colombia and Switzerland attacking whom. Then you can start to reason what is going on. Then the attack types, different types of attacking other sites. The attack targets, we can see the United States is the biggest target, the United Arab Emirates, the second biggest, Spain, Italy, Singapore, France, and the Philippines. And then they give the timestamp of these attacks, where they're happening from, even the attacker ID, IP, and the attacker geo, from which geographic position they're doing that, and the target. And then they show what kind of attack this is. And you can see it's more or less, it looks like an east-west attacking game. It looks like a game because many of you play these games, probably. Switzerland is sitting here right in the middle. Seems to be pretty quiet. No, just somebody did something from Lausanne. And you can see how the activity changes over time. So this is the whole world. This is a global view. And I wanted to start with this one because this is very much the same thing that happens in the smallest space. Actually, probably as we are speaking in this room. Because this morning when the internet login didn't work, I asked Path, I said, why doesn't it work? And he said, well, if you type in your password now, somebody's sitting out there, grabbing it, using it, and so on. So this is happening literally everywhere. And what is the underlying principle, or what is the underlying threat of all of this? Let's have a look. Yeah, go back. Thank you. Let's start with some definitions, the things you love because they are safe and you can rely on them. So the definition of security is the state of being free from danger or threat. That sounds pretty reassuring, but we want to use this type of definition because it's fairly simple, and we come back to it at the very end. And one particular important security is that of food security. There, everybody comes from lunch now probably, so you don't have any problem with food security in your personal life now, but many people on the earth are very, very concerned with that. And food security is the state of having reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. So it's a quantity, and it has to be affordable and nutritious. It doesn't say anything if it's healthy. That would be food safety. And more specification, food security has declined dramatically in many developing countries over the last years. And the last point is the ultimate individual food security is growing your own food. And that is, of course, something that's not only happening in the developing countries, but even here in these countries with urban farming, all these developments is moving into this direction. But this is only security, food security, meaning the amount of food that people need, the calories they need per day, is available. Safety sometimes is used interchangeably with security, but at the beginning it's good if you try to keep them apart. Safety is the condition of being protected from or unlikely to cause danger, risk, or injury. That's a bit abstract. But if you move it to the urban level, it says enhancing urban safety and security, see they mixed them already, addresses three major threats to the safety and security of cities. Crime and violence, the first one, insecurity of tenure and forced evictions, and natural and human-made disasters. So these are safety and security on the city level. And finally, food safety, they are kind of careful and say food safety is a scientific discipline describing handling, preparation, and storage of food in ways that prevent foodborne illness. So there comes in the quality and the nutritious quality of the food. Okay, so in a smart city, like in any other city, these two aspects, safety and security, are extremely important. And in the next minutes, we try to show how they are connected to which aspects of the city. An area connected to safety and security in each city is the so-called critical infrastructure. And critical infrastructure, well, it's already listed there, but if you read through this list, you can see immediately where these attacks that we saw before could have an impact on. So who has an idea which one of these critical infrastructures here could be attacked? Give a guess. Telecommunication, yeah, probably the first one. Have you experienced that personally before? Probably you have, but maybe you didn't notice because it's happening constantly here at ETH as well. So telecommunication is an easy target. What else? Yeah.
I think they're all constantly being affected. They're all vulnerable to IT attacks nowadays.
Right. They're all being tested, each one of them. And the reason behind that is, of course, that all of them are smart in a way. All of them are equipped with computers, lots of computers. And as soon as you have a set of computers that can communicate anywhere, you can use them, you can misuse them, you can attack them. So, of course, electricity generation, there were big events of this in the Middle East and in West Asia not so long ago, where power plants were attacked. Gas and oil production itself is not so vulnerable at the moment, but as soon as they start going into refineries and being transported, it becomes very dangerous. Water supply, drinking water, wastewater, sewage, if they have complicated plants that process these things, it is very well possible to do that. Agriculture, food production and distribution is a bit more difficult because it's wide areas that you have to target. But if you target specific ones, poisoning food and things like that is hard to do with cyber attacks. You have to do it physically. Heating is a problem only in our latitudes, but this would also be fairly difficult because there's so many individual heating plants. Public health, hospitals, of course, are very vulnerable, transportation systems, and financial systems. And this is something we will talk about in our discussion. So you can see critical infrastructure. This is just a list. And in the next slide, we will see how in a particular country, this is now in Germany, how the different infrastructures, oh, where did my slide go? Jumped over it, will come later, is specified. Let's get into some examples. Wow, who knows that? Where's that? Right continent, right country. Yes, it's in San Francisco, but it's the same. Here we have two natural threats, which are earthquakes, yeah, and everywhere, fire. Yeah, earthquake and fire, and for both, this is how people used to handle that in the past. So, would you say this is for security or for safety? It's actually meant for safety, but it might threaten your security because somebody might climb up the stairs and invert the process. And they could be added on later, but they are physical. It's nice to see, you can see immediately if there's a gap, if the thing has rusted, if somebody will fall down, if the hinges are broken or something. You can see it, you can fix it if you want. But of course, if you move to the cyber world, to the smart world, that's not possible. It's not visible easily anymore. But don't worry, at least at ETH and at every university, they have a department of, you can say, safety, security, health, and environment. Has anyone met these people already here at ETH? No? So you're lucky. In the old days, when the architecture students were working all night in the studio, they met these people. At first they met the dogs because they came in, the security people came in with the dogs, and if the people were working too late, they had to leave. But you haven't experienced that, so you are very disciplined students, it seems. Okay, but they make sure they have as you can see, an alarm organization. Sometimes you hear the alarm going on, then something happened in the labs, in the chemistry or biology labs, so that has to do with safety, or building contaminants. A few years ago, we had in the downtown buildings, in the old buildings, asbestos. So that was terrible. We had to close the whole buildings. We had to evacuate them. We had to close them not only for a day, a week, for months. We had to rebuild the whole infrastructure inside of the building. So that's the building contaminants. Construction project support goes into the same, and so on. And so this is the organization inside of ETH. They make use of the physical world, but also of the cyber world. So they know exactly who is where, because they can see how many people are accessing this point here, for example, at the moment, and so they can judge roughly how many people are in this room. Or if they are nice like you listen and don't game, then they are misguided because they don't know how many are here, maybe. And then somebody knows these people. Very important group. So that is the information security group here at ETH. And both in research and in education, they develop tools for the analysis and construction of safe and secure systems. That is really important work. And they are like the fire walls and the fire escape ladders that we saw before in reality. Now let's move to the lowest level, or to the most simple level of the building, because we go from smart buildings to smart cities to smart countries. And in smart buildings, more and more, we have things that were not there 10, 15 years ago. Personal response, where people come to help other people in their buildings, was there for a long time. Always. This is the neighborhood help and so on. Has been there for hundreds of years. Energy and energy management in smart homes or in buildings has been there also for quite a long time. But home automation and home security is something relatively recent. And of course, all of these devices that you see here want to be networked and connected. So if you have a smart home, then you have all these devices in there. As a matter of fact, this is an advertisement from a company for their smart home devices. You can see an incredible amount of things. You have a so-called smart plug. You have a smoke detector that goes, of course, with your safety protection. You have a water sensor. If some water is running out, you have a motion sensor. You have a door and window sensor. You have a connected hub that connects all these devices and sends the information to your cell phone or smartphone. You have battery motion sensors. You have a siren. You have siren with optional battery backup. You have monitors all over the house. And you can see these devices have penetrated the whole house. In every room, they are sitting, watching you, like in this room as well. So we have here the smoke detectors, of course. We have inside these lamps even CO2 detectors. So if the CO2 level is getting too high, you might start the building to bring in more air. We have not motion detectors, but smart plugs and all kinds of other cameras in different parts of the buildings and so on. A few years ago, 6 years ago, when the first this word of the responsive city came up for the first time, there was a TED talk by Kent Larson from MIT, and he saw all these developments in these homes, and he said, I don't believe in smart homes. That's a kind of a bogus concept. And if we now move from smart homes to smart cities, you might think, if smart home is already a bogus concept, what happens with smart cities? Is that also bogus? I mean, after all, we spent our whole semester working on smart cities, trying to understand them, to learn, to see how to improve them. But smart city and smart home, as we saw in one of the first lectures, are actually quite connected, but also in their security aspects, they are very much connected. So if you cannot make their homes smart, you cannot make the city smart, and vice versa. Secure and safe, you cannot make the city secure and safe. So smart city, you could say it's big data plus ICT. And as you mentioned before, as we saw before, big data and information communication technology are extremely prone to security threats and to personal safety threats. Moving from the city to a regional level, this is the European Union, the European Forum on Urban Security. You can see it's not only technology that causes security threats, it's also other things. By just reading some of the titles that you have here, a step forward in promoting legality in Emilia-Romagna, this is a security issue. Or local and regional elected officials from 28 countries unite against violent extremism. This is another security threat. Or EFUS at the annual meeting of the Civil Society Forum on Drugs, another one. And so you can basically go to the whole website. You find all relevant security and safety issues on it that touches on the smart city, on the smart country, and you are surprised how many issues there are. And you see all the conferences that are going on. Interesting it gets when you want a job. You have somewhere job descriptions for all these positions that you can have in smart city security or smart city safety. Now this is the city, the so-called smart city Songdo that I visited in June, and where they have implemented such a system. I mentioned that before, but so far it's mainly really a technological system, and you have many people, if they are all watching, down here screens and trying to make sure that nothing happens that would need to call the security forces or to protect the personal safety of the people. But it's really hard to see, to watch all of these cameras at the same time. But this is more and more a reality that we live in. So from your work, from your home, from waking up this morning to coming here, if you would start to count how many times you have been watched, photographed, sensed, detected, it would be amazing. And go one step further. Somebody of you knows the Urban Exploration, UE groups? Have you heard of it? Somebody from America? You heard of it?
No.
No? Okay. So these are groups of people who get together, could be 1, 2, 3 small groups, and they try to explore the city to the limit. You know, how much they can do legally to, let's say, get on a certain building, photograph a certain infrastructure, or try to go into a train tunnel or other tunnels in legal terms. And that shows the limits of security of a city. So the government is then interested to talk to these people, because these people reveal all kinds of positions or locations that could be used for attacks on the city. And if you just look at it normally, you wouldn't say it. If you look at on a floor plan of the city, you wouldn't see it. But when these people actually go there and take photos of this infrastructure, you know exactly where you would have to put a protective device or something. So there they give the examples: the subway, possible access location or rooftops, security vulnerabilities, these surveillance cameras, facilities under construction, bridges, utility tunnels, and so on. So you have not done that, obviously. Maybe as a child you have done that, you know, explore your vicinity, see how far you can get, how high you can climb. So these people do that as well. Okay, so this critical infrastructure that is normally searched by these groups, they have increased vulnerability in smart cities. As we looked at it before, electricity generation, transmission and distribution is very much in danger, telecommunication, water supply, heating, public health with hospitals, transportation, and financial services. I just made those in red, which are under high attention. And here's the one I was looking for before. In Germany, they break it down in a different way into the technical base infrastructure of energy, ICT, transport, and water. And then on the right side, and this is very interesting, and that's where our responsive city next semester is coming in. And this is the socio-economic infrastructure. Socio-economic infrastructure meaning health and food, emergency and catastrophe protection, but also to keep the whole governance, the good governance in place and working, parliament, the whole government, and the public administration and law facilities, and then of course the finances and media and cultural goods, because they all are part of the city and part of the smart city. And then moving one step to the other continent, to the United States, there's the Department of Homeland Security. This is one of the biggest departments now. So there we have the protection or the security of the whole country. And they're also very much concerned with critical infrastructure security and resilience. So they made this month as the Critical Infrastructure and Resilience Month. And they give you advice. One thing is, the one thing you need to do better to do before shopping online, lock down your login. And they tell you now that everybody is shopping these days, make sure that you don't catch your passwords and so on. But they do much more, and here's a list of all the things they are doing every day. So that's quite interesting to read. And most of this has to do with security and safety of the country. So here we have what they say they do every day on average: remove 645 criminals, or block 1,900 possible cyber intrusions, or train 2,800 federal, state, local, tribal, and international law enforcement personnel, or admit and naturalize 2,000 new US citizens every day, and grant 1,723 people permanent residence, asylum, and refuge status. So this is all handled in this agency, but of course this agency has to do all the so-called security checks before on each one of these actions. So this is a huge interconnected security system that then is made to secure the people who are inside of this country. And every country has more or less, not so sophisticated, but sometimes even more restrictive institutions of this kind. Switzerland as well. All of you who came into Switzerland and had to get a permit here to stay, registration and so on, had to go through some of these processes, and they're always connected to security issues, so that then once you're in, you can be safe. All right, so let's discuss some use cases where this is really true, and before that, maybe a few another background, a memory of our model of a city that we had in the previous semesters, and also for the first Singapore ETH Center Future Cities Lab, the stocks and flows model, because all the things I was mentioning now, the buildings, the information flow and so on, they can all be seen as stocks and flow. So the space, of course, stocks and flows of space to make security in a public space, very important. Energy, you stock and flow, you can attack it, because if you stop the flow of energy, then the city doesn't work anymore. Material stock and flow, that's a bit difficult, it's not so smart most of the time. People, stocks and flows, of course, very, very attackable. Capital, water, and information stocks and flows. And all these projects we had and have in these areas of stocks and flows from digital fabrication to digital construction to housing, doing urban sociology, urban planning, and simulating new cities. They all can be attacked if you want to do that with these things that we saw before. And the way people protect against it, once it has been attacked or it has happened, the threat has happened, then you need this, like the firefighters. It can be for natural causes or for human causes. Or you can use or you must protect and secure these devices here. Transportation, all the goods coming into the country. This, of course, is a stock and flow of material. And this is the stock and flow. Does somebody know what they stocked in here? Somebody from Shenzhen? No? So what's the stock and flow of food? This was flour towers. They stored flour, made flour and stored flour, and this in Shenzhen, right on the ocean front. And of course, the stock and flow of transportation. If you attack the traffic lights, you know what will happen, and it will be a huge mess. So traffic, very important stock and flow. But how to protect from this one, I really don't know. Has anyone an idea what happens here? Is this a certain symbol, or what do you think? No. You have no idea? I don't know. But I just, that it's not so dry. But this really exists. This is not a photo montage. This is in Shenzhen. This one coming out and this one coming out. I don't know what is happening in this building. But let's go to our use case. And for this, I would like to invite Artem Chirkin and also Parth here. And we just sit here and have a little conversation on, maybe to make things a bit more graspable for you,